feel alright. Never stop, it's how we ride. Coming up until we die.
Show that brings you anime, sci-fi, and video games. There's two games that everyone's talking about. One is called Cyberpunk 2077 and the other one is The Outer Worlds. Both games are really good. The only thing about those two games, they are first-person shooter. That's kinda disappointed. But you never know. The people who make the games, they might change their minds and they add to that game the third-person shooter. But hey, you never know. That's it. Enjoy the
There you are. Wondering what's going on, eh? One question first. Are you feeling anything that can be construed as explosive cell death? No? Wonderful. Let's get started. Welcome to the edge of the galaxy, the frontier of space. Well, at least it was until the corporations bought it, branded it, and started selling it at ludicrously inflated prices. And the rest of your fellow settlers? Abandoned on the edge of the colony. I'd save them myself, but the board's got a bounty on my head. So, that's why I thawed you out. You appear capable.
Look, I get it. Taking on the corporation has left us with two choices, bad and worse. But you have to choose. And you have to choose now. You know you didn't have to shoot either one, right? But it's fine, I guess. You just keep being you.
Spacer's Choice is not responsible for any feeling of vertigo, wonder, or hunger you may have experienced while watching this advertisement.
Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today and welcome to part 1 of a 2-part video series for my Outer Worlds coverage. As a lot of you are aware already, I traveled to LA, big thanks to Private Division for that, to play the Outer Worlds, and so I've made 2 lists. One is a list of 5 things that I feel simply must improve to create the best possible product, and I feel since time is of the essence and what I played was not the final build, I wanted to prioritize that and get it out first. Part 2 is going to be 5 things that I really loved about the game. 5 things that I want Obsidian to emphasize in not only this product, but future products that really help to create its own identity where you play it and you go, I know this is an Obsidian Entertainment title. So now let's get started with number 1, which is not in any chronological order. These are just 5 things that I think are important to get fixed or to take a look at for future consideration. That being balance. So when you level up in this game, I have a full breakdown of the leveling system on my channel. You have the attributes, the skills, and then there are perks that you can select. And I feel that some of the perks are lacking balance, especially when you go into certain builds. And part of the fun for a lot of RPGs is reaching that god tier mode, but there's something a little off in my opinion about certain perks. Like for example, you get 15% of your health back per kill, and then if you're a melee build, for every attack you land, you get 15% additional health back on top of that. So if you're a two-handed melee user, you're constantly going to be soaking up the blood of your enemies and you'll never die. Now this doesn't mean that on Supernova, things will be easy. I watched my boy Juicehead play on Supernova a little bit and it looked really tough. So it's not like you're just gonna waltz in there and be OP easily, but this is something that I think should be considered and should have a deeper look, because I was playing the game, I instantly got the 15% extra health per kill perk, and all the other YouTubers and press outlets that I spoke to also grabbed this perk, which I think signifies that we have something that's not just an option to fortify a build, but rather a perk that's so good everyone's going to pick it, and therefore it's kind of busted. It's something that can be improved. Bump down the percentage a little bit. I don't think the concept of it is that bad, but I think this perk alone can really diminish some of the difficulty, which clearly Obsidian wants to have there since they have a new difficulty called Supernova, right? So this is something that I think they want to get right, and I think they should be aware of that. They should take a look at stuff like carry weight, consumable weight. It didn't really stand out to me as anything that's going to instantly make you better upon picking it or is a must-have for every build. The rest of them seem to fortify the type of character you were playing as, which is what the whole game does very well. So that's why I felt this perk was a little out of place. If they bump it down to 5%, it's not as bad. It's not going to make or break a fight, but it could keep you in there a little bit and add a little more tension to things. Number 2, this is the issue that definitely nagged at me the most. It is the sound experience. In this game, when it comes to voices around the town, the ambient music just isn't loud enough, and that's something that you really expect in an Obsidian title. And this is with all my audio settings maxed out. I was really surprised by this, mind you, because Obsidian does some great world building, and while in Fallout New Vegas, we'll say when you're walking around, yeah, it's usually a pretty mute experience outside of some of the older Fallout tracks playing on repeat based off what town or civilization you are in. But in the Outer Worlds, it was very mute, and there wasn't that strong audio experience. Like, for example, as I'm slowly walking up to a bar, you hear noises picking up of folks laughing and cheering and yelling. It's like you cross into the doorway and then the sound turns on. It feels very janky. It doesn't feel seamless. It doesn't feel very this generation. It feels previous generation, which I don't think is good. Feels like you're playing what would be an incomplete build. And while I would sit here and go, oh, well, they told me we're not playing the final build, so what's there to worry about? And that could be applied to anything I simply want to have improve, but I find it strange that the one omission there, when there was complete voice work in the entire experience, was music. I mean, there wasn't combat music, there wasn't exploration music. It was really strange, and some may not think it's a big deal, but when you're there walking around, sometimes it can build up the tension, but silence is most effective when there is also sound occurring. And by that, I mean that, okay, you'll have the music here and there, and then when you bring in the silence, it becomes all the more effective given the moment that it's happening in the game. Number 3, inventory management. Now, this is something that I am a big stickler on. I thank Divinity Original Sin, the first entry for this one, because that created my obsession with good inventory management in games. Now, I don't think Obsidian's going to overhaul the entire inventory system, and it works just fine in my opinion from what I played in the build. But what I had an issue with was swapping out weapons, and I highlighted this briefly in my brutally honest opinion video, that I personally felt like something was bugging out in this menu. Now, you had weapons that were hotkeyed on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what would happen is I'd try to swap out a sword into my 3 slot, and you'd have to click on the sword, click 3, and it would swap into that one. But for some reason, that just wasn't working, and so I'd try it in different slots, and it would work there. So there are bugging menus in the Outer Worlds. This is absolutely something that needs to be resolved because I wasn't able to test out some of the stuff I had looted because this system was all finicky. I'm sure if I sat down for a little bit longer and focused on it, I could have figured out what the bug was, but my time was limited. I only had just about an hour and a half to play the actual game and record footage for you guys. Me getting caught up in a menu is not a part of my plans out there when you're traveling across the country. So for me, I gotta say the inventory management needs work, and especially in an RPG where that's always where you're gonna be. You're gonna be sifting through your armor, your weapons, your consumables, stuff you're gonna drop, stuff you're gonna trade. Organization is the name of the game. They always gotta get that right. So Obsidian, do work on the inventory management system just a little bit, more so the HUD when it comes to swapping out weapons and comparing them can be a little archaic, so to say. Number 4 is the companion cutscenes that play for abilities. This is just a minor quality of life change that can go such a long way. So when you trigger different abilities for your companions, the one I saw were Nyoka's laser turret or Parvati's giant hammer slam, is that it always focuses on the companion, gives them a slow motion cutscene, and it tries to add this cinematic feel. Now, once again to emphasize, I played for an hour and a half, which is a solid amount of time, but nearing the end of that hour and a half, I could already feel the cutscenes sort of waning on me. I was like, all right, I don't need a cutscene every time. Now, if it's a critical hit, and they do that, then the game's telling me, hey, this cool thing's happening because it's a critical hit, and that would work much better than every single time you pull an ability. Now, the reason this is important because the Outer Worlds has multiple playstyles. It may be fine for you if you're walking around like I did, you're shooting everyone up, but these abilities are not only useful in general high-level combat situations, but also think of the leader playthroughs for folks like myself who are going to do multiple playthroughs, or maybe this is going to be your first playthrough and you're going to do the leader playthrough where you're not going to be using any weapons, you're going to mainly be telling your companions what to do. And when there's a cutscene playing at least 6 times, we'll say, per combat session because you're constantly spamming these abilities, I just think it won't work out that well and it'll bother a lot of people. And if Obsidian just had an option in the gameplay menu to turn this off, and even if they just teleport in front of you, I think that would be so much better than breaking up the action constantly, because that's what's happening, is you look at an enemy, you press a button, and all of a sudden Parvati's on the other side of the map doing a hammer slam, and that's it. And you don't really think too much about it. I personally think it's fine because it gets the job done and it lets your abilities be a flexible part of the gameplay system. But at the same time, maybe that cutscene's there because they are transporting the NPC from one place to the other. So it turns it sort of into this little hot fix for the mechanic. Still, something I would like to see improved upon. Number 5 on the list, our final entry, is mob enemy variety. Now, when I was walking around my time on Monarch, I encountered 3 enemy types. 2 were the most notable ones I'll be talking about, which are Marauders or Mantiqueens. Now, what I noticed was a little bit of a Fallout 4 enemy build going on here. By that I mean you'd have, for example, your Raiders, and you have your Legendary Raiders, and you have your Super Legendary Raiders, right? And in this game, you've got the Mantiqueen, the Mega Mantiqueen, the Marauder Captain, right? What I'm saying is that pretty much these enemies started to repeat so often in this region of the game, and now, since the Outer Worlds isn't the biggest title, both between environmentals, world space, as well as length in game, I think that mob enemy variety is really important, considering that combat's such a big part of the game. I don't think it's the focal point. I think dialogue and conversations are, which is one of the best parts of the game, so they got that right. But if combat's going to be a focus, then you need to have enemies to spice it up a little bit and attack you in different ways, and that every corner you turn is not just another group of Mantiqueens, right? That becomes a little frustrating. So personally, I think this game could benefit from a couple of additional enemies that could spice things up. And the reason I say that is because I was at some abandoned outpost, I found a bunch of Mantiqueens, I killed them, I looted the area, I left, I went into a cave nearby, and I found another group of Mantiqueens, and then I left and there were more Mantiqueens. So there's a lot of the same enemy there. Is it a deal breaker? Absolutely not. None of these are deal breakers. What, little HUD issue, some sound that can be tweaked. The balance of perks may or may not be a severe one. None of these are make or breaks, but overall combined, if these were amended for, they could improve the experience drastically. Balance wouldn't be a big worry. Sound would drastically improve. Combat would be better. I think that inventory management would be better. All these combined and fixed could make the Outer Worlds go from an 8 to a 9 for a lot of people. So these are just the things I wanted to put out there for Obsidian. Hopefully they find them useful. Hopefully you guys are now aware of these issues. You know what you're getting into if you're considering purchasing this product, whether it's through the Game Pass, you're just buying the game, maybe you're waiting for the Switch version, maybe you're waiting for the Steam release, you're getting it for some reason on the Epic Games Store, whichever way you want to go. There are options for you, and hopefully you are all the more knowledgeable because of these videos. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support on the Outer Worlds coverage, and I'll be sure to catch you guys next time. Fire away with any comments, questions in the section down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace. Salutations, everybody. It is your friendly neighborhood wannabe Vault Boy here with another Outer Worlds video. This is part 2 of that list of 5 things series I came up with. Last time I did 5 things that I think simply need to improve for the Outer Worlds. If you want to check that out, it'll be linked in the description down below. Today, in part 2, we're talking about 5 things I absolutely loved with this game and my experience. And I mostly loved everything, so it was hard to condense it into 5 things on this list, but I did it. I managed to do it. We had to keep it symmetrical because I could only think of 5 things I needed to improve. So I had to keep it fair and do 5 things I loved. So let's get this one started, and it begins with the dialogue. This is Obsidian's bread and butter, and it screams at you off the screen as soon as you fire the game up. My first conversation, instantly, there were words jumping off the page at me. My brain was sparkling with imagination based off of the descriptions that Obsidian was providing for me. All the writing, the character building, it was there instantly. But there's also finer nuances in Obsidian's dialogue that need to also be appreciated. Something like, for example, companion interjections. This is a system that I love to death. I cannot believe how much talking there is with the companions. They are very lifelike, whether you're exploring, whether you're talking with someone else. They always got something to say, and it's not in the annoying way. They are meaningful interjections that build character, build personality, funny moments, intriguing moments, insightful moments. And once again, this was just in a nice hour-and-a-half slice while I was out there playing this game. Just that tiny slice jumped off the page at me that much. Now, we could sit here and debate all day how maybe Obsidian crafted a very specific press build, but all I'm saying is that if what they've created here is representative of the entire product, it is going to be an RPG player's wet dream. I mean, there is some really good dialogue here, like I always highlight, and it's in my brutally honest opinion video, but the history of Monarch is supremely interesting stuff. The writing is so good, it invites you into the universe and just pulls you in. You are hooked right away. And that is why this game will live and die off of the storytelling, which clearly so far what I've seen is far superior than most companies in this industry. Number 2 was one I did not expect. We've seen a lot of the Outer Worlds between PAX East, E3, the initial reveal. I've analyzed every single nook and cranny of this game throughout its entire development, but yet it wasn't until I actually played the game that the art style and environmental design hopped off the page at me. Now, stuff like verticality, tall buildings were something I didn't expect in this game, climbing hills, but also tiny caves tucked away in the corner, meaningful stories packed into those areas, but also the use of color, the way that every environment has this own look and feel and feels distinctly created for a specific purpose. What I see is a lot of thought and passion here, and it makes sense because Obsidian has said this is their dream game. But all I'm saying is something about the work here shows that people who love their job made what was happening here in this game. And that made me thrilled because I was enjoying being a part of that universe, and there are little details and things you just see happening around you that you know someone who wanted to make this place feel real brought into the game. Stuff like little particle effects dripping from the ceiling in Fallbrook, the little difference in lighting between that and other towns you can visit in the game or towns that we've seen in various trailers. It's just mind-boggling the amount of love that's being packed into these locations, and I'd kill to see the concept art for this game, to see the before and after, like, okay, this is what we want to make the area, and this is what happened when we created it. I think it would be really fascinating stuff. And usually, while I appreciate the artists, most underrated creators out there, anywhere, people don't give them enough love, I usually don't go goo goo gaga for concept arts because I just care about the actual game. But still, this is one game I would make an exception for, and I'd love to see that concept art. Number 3, the humor. Now, this could tie into dialogue, but I feel it's its own entity because Obsidian is known for a bit of dark humor. But when I'm playing a game, maybe I'm just like real boring. I don't know. But I don't laugh a ton. And obviously the exceptions there are something like South Park, which is clearly a game designed for humor. But other than that, I see people firing away on the timeline, telling me how funny this game is. Oh, I laughed my butt off at this. I'm just like, what? Like, I'm just sitting there with a straight face, like fully into what I'm doing. And maybe it's because I get mesmerized, but all I'm saying with the Outer Worlds, in a press environment nonetheless, where, you gotta keep up some appearances, try to be at least somewhat professional. I'm like sitting there like a goofball, like, ah, ha, ha. This shit was so funny. Some of the dialogue in this game actually cracked me up. I mentioned it in my brutally honest opinion video, and they're the best examples. And I want to limit these examples, by the way. That's because I reuse them, and I want to make sure I don't spoil anything for anyone. If you're just watching my coverage and my coverage only, we're going to reuse some points there because I think it's important to keep the experience fresh for all of you. But stuff like threatening to laminate a lawsuit, stuff like screaming "Oh law," and putting drugs in rat poop and searching through them, and the guy saying, "Did you find my my sprats?" Stuff like this that I didn't really expect in this game to find funny, but it's the execution, and I think it carries over to the voice talent. The voice talent in this game is actually quite good. There's a certain quirk to them. It's not like all of them are these, Laura Bailey and Nolan North, your all-stars in voice acting. These seem like tinier, passionate voice actors and actresses that maybe we haven't heard before, and they add their own little quirks and bit of personality to the game, and it becomes its own beast. There's just something about it. But back to the original point, game's hilarious. It really is, and it's such a messed up universe. That's why that's also why I separate it from dialogue and humor, because in the dialogue there are those moments of seriousness, like learning the truth behind Monarch. But on the other hand, there's those hilarious moments like searching through poop and getting drugs, and you're like, okay, this is very much a video game too. Because I was having a chat with my girlfriend. We were watching old movie clips from the 50s to the 70s, and we were reminiscing on how these times very much were about entertainment. Not every game was trying to reach out to you and emotionally rip you up and deliver this heart-wrenching tale. Sometimes things were just fun. And what's special about the Outer Worlds, and I wouldn't be surprised if I had to repeat this in my review, is that this game has its moments of seriousness where it's telling you something that builds the universe, that builds the world around you, but it's also entertaining. It's fun to be there. It's just a fun game to play. And it meshes those two together in a way that we don't see all too often, especially in its genre. Anyway, enough of that. Number 4 is the gunplay. It's a lot more sharp than I expected, and that's why it's on this list. It's something that just went beyond my expectations. It's nothing out of this world. I still think games that I've played in the past, first-person shooter-wise, or in press previews like Borderlands 3, play much better as a shooter. But Obsidian's historically had not the best gameplay. You know, we have New Vegas as a shooter. We have Alpha Protocol's gameplay, which really got that game torn up because it was entirely skill-driven. At least in the Outer Worlds, you can aim, you can shoot a target, and it will land if you are aiming at them. It's not about what your dexterity is or what your perception skill is, because while we want that to tune the experience, not all of us want it so literally, myself included, I'll be honest, that we can't hit someone we're shooting at, because it brings about that old school, we'll say, Morrowind disconnect, and I'm going to use that example because it's a game I've been playing a lot on stream, where your sword skill isn't high enough, so you're swinging at an enemy, and then right in front of you, you're like, any human being with this many swings would connect on one of these hits, but for some reason, you just can't. And so that's not what's happening here in this game, and thank goodness it isn't. Number 5, the last thing I really loved about this game is simply its tightness. I liked how it was a much more compact experience. I've been drawn to those games much more often than not this year, maybe because my free time has become crunched down a little bit. I still have time for the bigger projects and the bigger games, but a lot less frequently. But in the case of the Outer Worlds, seeing a game that makes sure every step along the way, every character you choose to interact with has something interesting to say, something fun to say, a quest to give out, or a world's hint to lead you somewhere, it makes sure that your time's not wasted, where even if I'm sitting down for an hour to 3 hours, it does not matter. I'm going to make sure that it's worth my time. And I think that is so good. I think that's so powerful because it reminds me of KOTOR, where if I sat down for 3-4 hours, I could bang out a planet. And while there are multiple planets you can go to in KOTOR, which combine to like a 20 to 25 hour experience, depending on how experienced you are with that series, I still think that it's amazing that you can make that feeling of progress there because you completed a single world. And there's a lot of intermittent storytelling happening throughout the world. It's not just the main story, there's other things happening if you go off the beaten path. And a lot of that building is in the Outer Worlds. So I gotta say, I love that level of tightness, how compact the game is, where it's gonna be highly replayable. We're retreading those old grounds, provided that Obsidian takes the role-playing seriously, which they seem to have done very well, mind you. Then all will be okay, and we will have multiple playthroughs in there where these areas will continue to be fresh, and I think that compact nature helps fuel their vision for this game. But anyway, that will conclude the two-part series for 5 things with the Outer Worlds. One being things I feel could improve, and the other being things that I love. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys next time. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.
Oh yeah! First place! Bam!
Shut up! You have
Season
any
A?
idea what time it is?
My
No
Super
one cares
Bombastic
about your
Stories
stupid
DX is first
otaku
on the anime
website.
blog
Get a
chart.
job! Loser!
Dear sister, your brother cannot get a job because he suffers from YD.
YD?
Indeed, a crippling illness. Those who suffer from it can only do what they yearn to do, which in my case is... Whoa, scary! Oh, my precious! You almost knocked my beautiful waifu on the floor, I'll have you know.
You see this? You're gonna be a teacher starting tomorrow.
A teacher, huh? Given our current economy, teaching is a safe source of income, even part-time. And with my intellect, I'll likely be promoted quickly. Since the job is at my alma mater, I'd be comfortable there and probably well-liked.
Sounds great.
But I must refuse.
Huh?
I got that YD real bad, sis.
Then I'll beat it out of you!
No, don't do it!
面白くしてやろうぜつまらないことする君にはお仕置きが必要かな世間の常識なんかは壊して鏡に映りつもる表情変えてやるぜそして一度スイッチ入れたら欲しいものは手に入れろヒーローがいなければ君がヒーローになればいいとそんな言葉が生きる意味を与えてくれた決めるのは自分なのでもね一人ぼっちじゃないから物語の言葉で今すぐ本当のヒーローになれ夢を叶えて自分の未来をその手につかめ君の歩む人生オリジナルな存在さレベル上げて飛び出せまだ見たことのない景色が待つキラキラと輝けるレジェンドレアなビジョンで描かれた最高のステージを目指せ
I must say this is truly a relief. Mrs. Watanabe just took her maternity leave, and we were scrambling for a replacement.
If you wear a coat, you might fool people into thinking you're respectable. You know, like how you used to be.
Well, doesn't hurt to pretend, right?
Mr. Kagabi? What's wrong?
Why did you hire me without an interview? I'm practically a shut-in these days, so I'm hardly a prime candidate. I was kind of hoping you'd pass, frankly.
Don't be so humble. Everyone's heard of the young genius Junichiro, a physics visionary at only 17 years old. Your papers were featured in Nature, Science, and many other publications. I tried to follow your work, but I heard you turned down offers from famous research labs around the world. What have you been doing?
Keeping my anime blog up to date for the most part.
Huh? Surely that's a joke.
No, for real. I'm just sick of science, that's all. I mean, I think anime's a lot cooler. I know this song! It's the opening to Magical Cannon Girl Burakura! Lovely, dreamy two-hand!
What?
She's on the roof.
Mr. Kagami! We still need to talk!
You filthy pleb! This song is only 90 seconds long! I'm about to miss it!
You filthy pleb?
They call me a hero, didn't you know? Love of bullets firing and blood starts to flow. Romance or combat, I just say come at me, bro. Ba-boom, ba-choo, haters to the back, please. Ba-boom, ba-choo, evil down on its knees. Love soldier, she's a killer. Magical cannon girl, Burakura. Who's there?
Whoa! Awesome! It was like the real deal!
I'm going to be a voice actor.
Oh, really?
I come here every day to strengthen my singing voice and build some confidence for acting, too. Are you surprised? I even enrolled in a VA training school. It's only a matter of time before I'm a star.
How dare you? You think voice acting is that easy? You went to a training school? You realize there's over 1,000 of those all over the country? That means tens of thousands of rivals are born every year and only 100 or so can actually make a living as voice actors. That's a 1 in 100,000 chance of actually making it. In other words, you're more likely to get in a car accident on your way home today. VAs are gods, understand? Who cares if you can sing? So what if your voice is cute? That doesn't give you the right to stand among their ranks. The fans decide who...
I'm the one who decides my fate.
Haven't known her for 5 minutes and she punches me in the face. Not my kind of gal.
I wonder what the new physics teacher is gonna be like. I heard he was some super genius who won a Nobel Prize for some paper he published in high school. Even crazier, he used to go to this school.
Minako! Today I heard you singing those stupid cartoon songs on the roof again.
What are you, like 5? Come on.
Give that crap up already, girl. Wouldn't you rather hang out with us instead? Just like old times.
Morning.
That weirdo from the roof?
Mrs. Watanabe
Is that
on
mumbling due for our new
maternity
teacher?
leave.
This is the guy that's supposed to be a super genius?
Looks like he doesn't want to be here.
Man, I'm really not feeling this. But this class isn't gonna teach itself. Think. There has to be a way to make this suck less. Wait a second. Starting today, I'm your new physics teacher, Junichiro Kagami. This here is the address for a smartphone game. In order to get to know each other better, we will all be playing this today. Furthermore, anyone who can beat me will get an automatic 100 on their test next week. Now, let's party. If you want that easy A, show me what you've got! They may think it's just a game, but you can tell a lot about someone based on how they play and react to other players. It's the perfect way to get inside their heads.
Darn it! What's up? I just died.
Miho Kito. She seems to be the unofficial leader here. Is that face punch? Kind of hoping she was in someone else's class.
Wow, I beat you.
Let's have a rematch,
I'm
okay?
so bad at this.
I think I'm starting to get it now. Loser.
Oh my gosh, I think I'm toast gonna be
Interesting. I think I know where everyone stands now. The question is what to do about it.